Morning. How'd you sleep? Better? Oh, good. How's your leg? Your legs look better? Okay. Wow. Still pretty windy.
It's not going to get nice until next Thursday night.
Till Thursday? Wow. That's how long it's going to take the storm to pass by?
Cover your mouth, Marvin.
Oh.
Well, they said it couldn't be done, as you heard, but less than a year after beating the Democratic Party, the GOP, New Jersey Congressman Jeff Van Drew secured the support of his new constituents and won re-election as a Republican. And he joins me now in his first interview since the big win last week. Congratulations to you.
Thank you so much. It was a great time. It was a great week.
I know that had to be risky to switch parties, but obviously it didn't hurt you. It seemed to have helped you. Why did you decide to do it?
The risk was worth it, essentially because, really to condense it down, the Democratic Party has changed a great deal and it's changing more. And you saw that by even the number of moderates that lost in this last election right here who were Democrats. And that's going to continue because whatever they try to do and whatever they say, at the end of the day, it's very progressive, extreme, radical people that are controlling that party into the future. And that's not what Americans want. Americans love their country. And that's what the election was about. It was about which path we were going to take. Mrs. Kennedy's path, which was a radical path, which was one that believed in the Green New Deal, believed in defunding police, believed in sanctuary cities, believed in open borders, believed in not supporting
Avi Greenberg is there already.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I'm here. Hello. Hello, Marvin.
That was one of the most important points of the entire election. And I would say the second really most important point in ways the basics. We took care of our people. We always worked hard with constituent services. At times we would have 15 cases. My people work late into the night. Sometimes they will do the extra step to make sure that people get out.
What's the new Republican Party now? Because we heard someone earlier say it's not a complete loss that this Republican Party could not have happened without Donald Trump.
I think that's true. I want to thank the president. The president broke everything open. He really showed. It's like they have that saying, ripping the Band-Aid off the seams underneath. He did that. He showed the seamy side, quite frankly, of politics. He showed how politics could be better, that he really could work and fight for the average person. You know, there's all the real smart people, but the people, the average every day.
He was a Democrat. Congressman Kevin. He switched out to Republican. And he won as a Republican.
Donald Trump was just going to get thrashed and lose terribly, and basically he got half the vote. We were going to lose much more.
morning, Harvey.
How are you?
Okay, what's doing?
Nothing much. Nice and windy out, looks like.
Woo. At least it's not raining for a change.
No, last night, forget it.
Woo. Oh, good.
Yeah, I don't think it's over yet.
We're going to be around till Thursday, they say.
Yeah, it keeps on going around and around, coming back again.
Oh. Oh.
I have to call sports off a second. Now.
You have to call Scott. But you want to speak to him.
Oh, no.
You
Yeah,
have to call him.
he's not there yet.
Too early.
Well, both of them are early. I'll just wait until Schwartzwald till I go there.
Harvey, what happened with your bat?
I'm sorry, say again, what happened with my who?
The bat.
Oh, the bat. Well, the dead bat became alive and flew away.
Oh, flew the coop, huh?
He flew the coop. Like unbelievable. He was just laying on the catwalk. Someone took a picture of it and then went to go get it, to scoop it up and, throw it away. And as they did, he flew off. Well, I don't know. We don't know what to do. We didn't know what to do at that point. So anyway, there's a company named Trapper John, and that's all he does is he traps these bats.
Oh,
So we're gonna take a look around first before we do anything.
do you have an opening in toward the roof or something that they come in?
No, this was just laying on outside on
It was
the.
not in, it wasn't in somebody's
No,
apartment?
no.
Oh,
I think it just the wind must have just taken it off a tree. Probably.
could be. Could be.
Just flew it on and then just put. He landed on the catwalk.
He must have had a concussion. He woke up and he left.
That's it.
All right.
Yeah, and then we get people like. Then they have an active discussion. We'll call it. No, we shouldn't leave the doors closed to the laundry room because the COVID virus festers in there.
Oh,
They come up with some new things. And I said, well, leave it open and you'll have bats instead, leave the windows open. And besides, it's situated that we have fans in the laundry room.
right.
So this way, you're not going to worry about the virus festering in there. Worry about people being in there. No one ever goes in like 2 or 3 people at a time to stand there, while someone's doing the laundry.
I don't think so.
No, as is, they're upset that someone else is in there. So let's see what happens. Let them argue, have an argument amongst themselves.
So bring it up at your next meeting.
Actually, I have it on the agenda already.
Oh, you have it on the agenda.
I put it on already. What to do about the doors and the windows. We'll see. Give them something to talk about. Good morning, Rabbi. Nope.
Not yet.
Oh, here we go. Getting there. Good morning, Rabbi Green.
Morning.
Good morning, Ken.
Wait a couple minutes. I wind up on Monday and Thursday. I got to sort of daven up ahead of time and sneak out right after Torah reading. And Ted and Erwin and Bob Bromberg are still there. So we'll see who else joins in. Okay. So another minute or two, we'll get underway. Okay. Today's the 9th. I'm going to start on the sponsors, okay? And then we'll see where we are and where we have to pick up. A Year of Learning by Dr. Paul Koningsberg, right? In memory of his brother, Dr. Sam Koningsberg, Shimon Ruvain ben Labush, and Ed Goldberg's cousin, Nissen Hara, Nissen ben Fardosa. Paula and Bob Bromberg, in memory of their dear friend, Julian Smith, Yehuda ben Yisrael. Malcolm Mann, in memory of her family murdered in the Holocaust. Harav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Israel David ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. The many friends of Dr. Marvin Blush, Moshe Shalom ben Yitzchak Halevi, friends of Toby Paris, Saratova bat Yisrael Dov, friends of Malka Levi, Malka bat Yosef, friends of Avi Gitler, Avram Meir ben Shimon, Cheryl Scher, her children and grandchildren, in memory of her uncle, founding member of BRS, Dr. Israel Brook, Yisrael ben Harav Akiva, Marcia Federbush and family, in memory of her husband, Dr. Uriel Paul Federbush, Uriel ben Rav Shimon. A Month of Learning, sponsored by Charlie Gelfenstein, in memory of his mother, Dacia Gittelbat Meir Halevi, and his father, Meir Ben Yaakov. Also a Month of Learning, sponsored by Gila and Harold Saltzman, in memory of her mother, Etibat Yitzchak Elchanan. Have a Week of Learning, sponsored by Esther Slashowski, in memory of her son, Gershon Benyamin Ben Harav Avraham, as well as a Week of Learning by Anne Radola Klar, in memory of her husband, Mordechai Ben Tzvi Ze'ev. Today also we have a Day of Learning plus Torah Fund, sponsored by Gail Miller, in memory of her husband, Simcha Gedalia Ben Meir. And Neshamas have an Aliyah, Krantofia, Velti Yashir, Shem Atzliya, and L'chol B'nai Yisrael, a good gebenched Yah. Okay. Be right there. Right back.
Morning, Mendy. Morning.
Now he's got his microphone off.
I guess.
Mandy is muted.
I see.
Now he's off. No, now he's
Okay.
on. Now he's off again.
All right.
Off.
Oh, now you're
Now
on.
you're on.
Okay. All right.
Morning.
He's off.
Going to get us underway momentarily, assuming that the other fellas will probably finishing up the davening and then just getting home. Okay. Okay, I want to, Sadi Bet Amud Aleph is our daf for today. However, I want us to pick up going back a little bit on the bottom of Sadi Aleph Amud Beis. Okay. We're seeing here this discussion of whether or not, I guess I would put it this way, the machloket between the rabbis and Rabbi Shimon, okay, in terms of those domains for these areas, roof, karpaf, things like that, okay? And in that discussion, okay, it seems that the question is coming up whether they made a separate eruv or not. And we got to a point where we did discuss, for example, people on 2 floors or 2 first story, second story, okay, whether they, what's the status if they made separate eruvin, okay, or did not make separate eruvin, what's the impact there as well, okay? So the last line of Tzadi Aleph, Amud Beis, we see that now we're going to get into this question in a little more detail. We covered this a little bit towards the end yesterday, but sort of see that as the place to pick up and start again. Okay. And remember, by the way, we pointed out that even though they used the word eruv or did not make an eruv, to some degree they were talking about shituf Mavuot.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So on the last line, Sadi Aleph, Amud Beis, Male Ravina Larav Ashi. Okay. So we're picking up there where Ravina says to Rav Ashi. So you know that is already a discussion. Mi Amar Rabbi Yochanan Hachi, Sadi Bet Amud Aleph as we start, right? Vaha Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Halacha Kestam Mishnah. It wasn't Rabbi Yochanan who taught that the law is according to a Stam Mishnah, an anonymous Mishnah, which would imply the law should be generally like Rabbi Meir. Utznan. Okay, and then we have taught in an anonymous Mishnah, Kotel Shabein Shtei Chatzerot. We have this wall that's between two courtyards. Gavoa Asara v'Rochav Arba'a. The height of the wall is 10 tfachim. The width of the wall is 4 tfachim, implying that it's a separate rishus. Okay. Ma'arvin shnayim ve'ein ma'arvin echad, says the Stam Mishnah, that the two courtyards must each make their own Eruv Chatzerot, and they cannot join in one Eruv Chatzerot. Hayu barosho perot, and there are produce on the top of this wall. Elu olin mikan va'ochlim. Those from one chatzer climb up and can eat that produce on the top of that wall. Ve'elu olin mikan va'ochlim. And these others go up from the other chatzer, the other courtyard, and can eat there as well. Okay? Ubilvad shalo yoridu lamata, so long as they do not bring it down. Okay? Now, at this point, the Gemara asks, Mai lamata. This is where we left off yesterday, right? What do we mean by bringing it down? Lamata lebatim. Bring it back down to their homes. So their homes inside their own chatzer, okay? It's not permitted to do so, but they could eat that produce in the domain on top of the wall. Okay. Vahatani Rabbi Chia. But the Gemara now is going to raise an interesting point, okay, and ask the following, okay. And he says, that did not Rabbi Chia teach, Ubelvad shelo yehe zeh omeid bimkomo v'ochel. Challenging the explanation to bring it into their homes, implying that he cannot even basically come down from the wall and eat it standing in that courtyard. Okay, so that's what he's saying. Right? Okay, and this one also stands in his place. In other words, in his courtyard and eat. Okay, again saying that he must eat on the top of the wall. Okay, good. Okay, we're a few lines down on Sadi Bet Amud Bey, Aleph. Okay, it's just picked up where we left off really from yesterday. Okay, Amarle. So Rav Ashi responds and says to him, V'chi Rebbe lo shan'a. Okay, and if Rebbe hadn't, who basically set the order of the Mishnah, if he hadn't taught it, Rabbi Chia minayim lo, then where would Rabbi Chia have known this? Okay, this Atmar, and it was said, Shtei chatzetrot v'churva echat beinehem. He says perhaps Rabbi Chia knew this from the following example. Okay, another perhaps bright where we have two courtyards, okay? And in these two courtyards, okay, we have a ruin between them. And if you look on 92A1 using Art Scroll, you see a diagram, note 11, okay? It gives us some sense of what they're talking about. Right? Echat irva ve'echat lo irva, okay? Implying that one courtyard made an eruv and the other did not. Amar Rav Huna, says Rav Huna, notnim ota lezo shelo irva, that we give, in other words, the use of the ruins, okay, to the courtyard that did not make its eruv. Aval she'irva lo, but to the courtyard that did make an eruv, okay, we do not. Right? Dilma, perhaps, why? Ate la'afuke mane debatim l'churva. Lest, okay, we're concerned is that since they have a eruv to carry into their courtyard, they might assume that it's permissible also to carry from their homes right into the ruins. Okay? That is what he's saying. Now, we're going to see that this supposition or this assumption on the part of Rabbi Chia is going to be challenged, okay, as we go on, right? And we see as follows. V'chia bar Rav Amar, okay, and Chia bar Rav, however, okay, says in the name of his father, in the name of Rav, okay, he says as follows, Afla she'irva, even to the courtyard that did make a eruv, we would grant them usage to carry items out to the ruin. Ushtehen asurot. And as a result, then, he says, both inhabitants of both courtyards prohibit one another then from carrying to the ruin. Ve'im tomar shtehen mutarot. And if going on further for Rabbi Chia bar Rav, and if you want to say, right, the following, okay, that they're both permitted, mepnei ma ein notnin chatzer shelo irva l'chatzer she'irva. If that's the case, then why don't we permit those who live in the courtyard that did not make an eruv to carry into that of the courtyard that did make an eruv? Right? Hatam kevan de mintere mane de batim b'chatzer. There we might say that our line of reasoning is such, okay, with these two chatzerot, that the people from the courtyard that made the eruv can carry from their homes and carry into the other chatzer. Why? Because items are protected. Ate la'afuke. Okay? And therefore, what happens? They can carry it out. Right? Hacha bechurva. But here in the case of the ruins, kevan de lo mintere mane de chatzer bechurva. Since we say that those items that might be carried into the ruin are not protected or guarded in the ruin, lo ate la'afuke, we're not permitting them to carry them out. Okay. Now, our Gemara wants to continue and give us a slightly different version, okay, of this discussion. Ika da Amri. There are those who suggest the following version. Chia bar Rav Amar Afla she'irva. Chia bar Rav said even to the courtyard that made a eruv, we permit them to carry things out to the ruins. Ushtehen mutarot, and both of them are permitted. Ve'im tomar shtehen asurot, and if you want to argue that both courtyards are prohibited from carrying to the ruin, right? Lefi she'ein notnim chatzer shelo irva lechatzer she'irva. Why? Because we say that we don't permit a courtyard that did not make an eruv to carry into a courtyard that made an eruv. Hatam kevan de mintre mane de batim b'chatzer. There, because items, utensils from the house are protected in the courtyard. Lo sharu baho rabbanan da'ate la'afuke. That the rabbis then did not permit them to carry out. Aval b'chorva lo mintare. But simply to carry into the courtyard, into the ruins, it's not protected. And that might be why the rabbis did not permit the chatzeros to do so. Okay, that finishes that particular piece of Gemara. And we now get back to a new Mishnah. Okay.
Whoa.
Now, on 92A3, okay, let's just start this Mishnah in a moment by looking at the diagram. Okay, at the picture up in the notes opposite on our scroll note number 22. Okay, notice that we have really two roofs here, two dwellings attached, so to speak, one to another. One has a larger roof and one has a smaller roof. Okay, so part of our discussion is going to be, okay, can the one who, let's say, has and they're separate owners, okay? Can the one who has the larger roof carry from that onto the smaller roof or not? Or likewise, can the one from the smaller roof carry into the larger roof or not? Okay. Now, why is this an issue? Because we have the question of, do the walls of either residence, so to speak, rise up, extend upward? And that's what we're going to touch on in this Mishnah in Gemara. Okay. Matnitin, says our Mishnah, Gag gadol samuch lekatan. As in our picture, we have a larger roof adjacent to a smaller roof. Hagadol mutar v'hakatan asur. So it's permissible to carry on the larger roof and not on the smaller one. Chatzar, right? So now we go on, see if we have a parallel. Okay, Chatzar gedola shenifratza liktana. Okay, we have a larger courtyard that is breached into a smaller one. That would be more like the picture opposite note 25. You've got the larger one and then a smaller courtyard, right? Gedola muteret uktana asura. Again, the Mishnah says it's permissible to carry in the larger courtyard, but forbidden in the smaller courtyard. Mipnei shehi kepitcha shel gedola. Why? Because we say that the smaller courtyard is like an opening, okay, if we want to call it that, or an entrance, okay, to the larger one, and therefore it's really not considered a separate area. Gemara. So the Gemara asks, Lama li lemitne tarte? Why does it seem that we have to teach both of these cases, both in terms of the roof and then in terms of the courtyard. Okay. The Rav, Katani Gag, Dumya Dechatzer. Why, says the Gemara? Because it would appear that according to Rav, there's this similarity, right, between that of the roof and that of the courtyard. Namely, Machatzer, right, Minkara Mechitzata, Afgag Nami Minkara Mechitzata. So just as with regards to the courtyard, we have recognizable walls, okay? The walls are visible. So he's going to argue, Rav, that walls, okay, are recognizable, exist, okay, are visible, if you will, okay, in the regards to the house, okay, for the roof. In other words, the sides of the house as if they rise up and form, let's call it for the moment, imaginary partitions for the roof area. Ula Shmuel, but as for Shmuel, Gag Dumia de Chatzer, okay, the roof is similar to the courtyard. Namely, Ma Chatzer de Kardar Sela Rabim, where we have a courtyard, where we have an example of many people coming and going, okay? Afgag Nami de Kadar Sele Rabim. So likewise on the roof, it's possible to have many people coming and going. And as a result, Shmuel is not going to accept the concept of good asik, of the sides of the houses acting like partitions rising up. Now, it says our Gemara, Yativ Rabba v'Rabbi Zera, okay, v'Rabba bar Rav Chanan. The three of them were sitting, Rabba, Rabbi Zera, and Rabba bar Chanan. V'Yativ Abai Gabayhu, and Abai was sitting fairly close to them. V'Yadve v'Ka'amre, they were sitting and they were discussing. Shma minami matnitin. We seem to be learning then from this particular Mishnah, Diore Gedola B'Katana, okay? Namely, that it would seem to say here that the residents, okay, who live where there is the larger area, okay, let's assume for the moment it's the Chatzer, since that's what they talked about at the end, B'Katana, okay, can carry over into the smaller courtyard. Ve'ein diurei Katana, but the inhabitants of the smaller courtyard cannot B'Gedola, into the larger courtyard. Ketzad, why is that possible? Okay, on what basis might we say this, right? He says, we have right? Gifanim B'Gedola, okay, if we have vineyards in the larger courtyard, Asur Lizroa et Haktana, it is prohibited then to plant any other kind of produce anywhere in the small courtyard, because really they're considered a single area, right? V'im zar'a zar'in asurin. And if he did plant any sort of produce, okay, they are forbidden, okay, cannot benefit from them because we're dealing with Klalei HaKerem, right? Now, going over then, Gefanim Mutarim, okay, but if the vineyards are in the larger courtyard and they're permitted, Gefanim B'Ktana, okay, in terms of vines, grapevines, in the smaller courtyard, Mutar Lizroa et hagedola. Okay? But then we say if the grapevines are in the smaller courtyard, it's permitted to plant other things in the larger courtyard. And we're going to give another example. Okay? Isha bigdola v'get b'ktana. The woman is standing in the larger courtyard, and the husband has tossed a get into the smaller courtyard. Mitgareshet. We say there, she is considered divorced. Okay? If it's all single rishus. Isha biktana v'get b'gedola. If the woman was standing in the smaller courtyard and he throws the get into the larger courtyard, eina mitgareshet. She is not considered to be divorced. Okay? Because again, if it's all considered one area, okay, in this case, the domain of the smaller courtyard doesn't extend into the larger courtyard. Right? Now, Gemara continues with other examples of this situation. Tzibor b'gedola u'shliach tzibor b'ktana. Okay? Congregation is in the larger courtyard, and the shliach tzibor is in the smaller one. Yotz'in yedei chovatan. We say here, okay, in this case, right, they fulfill their obligation when it comes to listen to him, right? Right? Because again, we're saying that the smaller area is, with being adjacent, it's in a sense part of the larger one. Tzibor b'ktana, u'shliach tzibor b'gdola, ein yotz'in yedei chovatan. Okay, but if the congregation is in the smaller courtyard and the shliach tzibor is in the larger one, they do not fulfill their obligation because they are not considered.
One. What happened? Hello? What happened?
I don't know. All of a sudden, Rabbi Green stopped talking.
No sound. Is he there? He's there.
Hello?
I don't see Rabbi Green anymore.
I think it's
No.
over.
Is he okay?
He hung up.
That's Mendy.
Yeah.
He must have accidentally hung up.
Someone gonna call him?
Alright. You're talking to me.
Oh. Someone should call him and let him know.
There he is.
Coming back.
He's back.
What happened?
Where'd you go?
Okay.
Where you been?
Were you in the small courtyard?
I was in the small courtyard, yeah.
Ah,
You were in Yotze.
Something happened electrically. Okay, we'll finish up. Anyway, ein yotzin yedei chovatan. A further example, Tisha b'gdola v'yachid b'b'ketana. Question of the minyan. 9 in the larger courtyard, 1 in the smaller one. Mitztarfin, they join together. Tisha b'ketana v'yachad b'gdola. 9 in the big court, 9 in the small one, 1 in the big one. Ein mitztarfin. They don't join together.
Okay.
Another example. So abigdola asur lekrot kriyat shma b'ktana. If there is excrement in the larger courtyard, It's forbidden to recite Shema if one is in a smaller courtyard. Soad b'ktana, if there is excrement in the smaller courtyard, mutar lekrot kriyat Shema b'gdola. It's permitted to recite kriyat Shema in the larger.
Okay.
Now, Amar laho Abaye, now, im kain, he says, matzino mechitza le'isur. In that case, we find an example then where a partition is going to lend itself to a prohibitions. Okay. She'emale ein mechitza, marchik dalet amos, v'zoreyev. Okay, that if it was not a situation of there being a partition there, okay, one could go dalet amos and then plant with our original example of the vineyard. Ve'ilu hashta asura. But now in this case, okay, we say that is not permitted. Okay. Amarle Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Zera, however, is going to point out to Abai. V'lo matzinu mitchitza le'isur. You're saying we've never seen an example previously where a partition is going to lend itself to a prohibition. Okay? But isn't it taught elsewhere in another Mishnah? Chatzer gedola shnifratza l'ktana. That if we have a large courtyard and there's a breach in the wall leading it to a smaller courtyard, gedola muteret, ktana asura, that it's permissible to carry in the larger courtyard and it prohibited in the smaller courtyard. Why? Because that breach is considered like an opening, like an entranceway into the larger one, and therefore it's not considered its own domain. Okay? So the Gemara now, however, tells us, Ve'ilu hashaveh et gifufeh. Okay, so it wants to change, okay, a question, okay, about the example here. Okay, namely, what about if there were some sort of extension, okay, of the protrusions, okay, part of the wall extended further out, okay, into the area. All right, what about that? Gedola nami asura. There too, he said that it would be prohibited. Amar le hatam siluk mechitzotu. Okay, so what is he telling him? Okay, in that case, right, his answer is that we would present it as if it's a case as if the partitions were removed, that they weren't there. Amar le Rabba, the Abaye, and so Rabba then says to Abaye, V'lo matzinu mechitza le'isur. Okay, you're saying that we've never also found a case where the partitions have caused a prohibition. Vaha itma. But don't we have another case, and we'll just go over a tiny bit here, okay, with this other example. Wasn't it said, right? Sichach al gabe achsadra sheyesh la ptzimin. Okay, if one covered over the top of an achsadra, a pavilion, okay, and it had posts, right? Sheira, that this is going to be valid. In other words, you're going to make this into a valid sukkah. Ve'ilu hashaveh ptzimia ula. Okay, but if it had the posts were such that they were evened out, okay, and then the sukkah would be invalid. Okay, Amarle Abaye, the Didi Sheira. Abaye answers, for me, it would still be valid. The Didach siluk mechitzoti. Okay, and for you, however, he says that it would be a case of needing to remove the partitions in order to effectively claim that it is structured properly. Okay, so if we look just quickly at the notes on 93A1, which we'll come back to a little bit more detail tomorrow. Okay, you look at the two diagrams. Okay, that's the posts across. All right, so they're going to see that that's going to be part of the question of whether that's going to be valid or not. Okay, and we'll stop right there. Okay, for today.
For 40,
Thank
okay.
you.
All right.
Thank you, Bob.
But who's counting?
Sorry about the electrical mix-up. I'll have to check that on my computer.
And I slept through half.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much, Rabbi.
All right, everybody. Have a good day.
Have a safe day, a good day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Be well.